Shabbat Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Well, Donald Trump went to China this week and he met with the president, Jinping, and he didn't walk away with anything. In fact, he got insulted. He was told that America is on a decline and China is on the rise. And that is true. America is on the decline. And there are people among the Israelites that think China is going to be the next rising power. No, China is not going to be any rising power. China, they are Gentiles. So when the Gentiles fall, China will be included in that fall. Okay, China will be included in the fall of the Gentiles. So will the elite and all of them because they are Gentiles. Can you imagine if America falls, China rise, and then we got to sit here for the next 100 years? Come on, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen at all. So when the time of the Gentile is over, that means China too. Okay, that means China too. So, but if you Israelites want to be ruled by China, you have at it. They're not ruling me at all. So, y'all, we're going to get into what happened. No agreements were made. Trade deals were supposed to happen. Nothing. Donald Trump literally walked away with nothing, which is unheard of for presidents to make big trips like that. Usually, they get into big trade deals, they get into policy and things they want to get done. Well, Mr. Donald Trump talking all kinds of crap all the time, he accomplished nothing. Literally nothing. He walked away empty handed. So much. Yes, Donald Trump. I guess that's that merit you keep telling us about, that merit, huh? And that high IQ that you claim you got. Please. All right, y'all. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I think this is hilarious. Usually presidents will come back from these trips and tell you the things they were able to do. Well, not Donald Trump. And it just goes to show you this is more sign that the world has turned on America and really not interested in doing any business with America anymore. The only thing Donald Trump has managed to do is isolate the country. The country is really isolated now. Antithesis, thank you so much for your super chat. Outcha supporting. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, y'all. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you.
All right, so the Trump and China trip is finally over, and I got to say something's off here because effectively nothing was accomplished. Like I broke down yesterday how the stuff that came out about the strait, the joint statement about the strait, was just a fluff piece and a headline because there were no actual points of action there. Like China could step in to mediate, they could put pressure on Iran, or they could stop buying Iranian oil, right? So there's actual things that China could do, and they didn't promise to do any of it. But the other thing I mentioned was that there's probably going to be a bunch of deals that went through because of all the tech CEOs and all the elites that went with Trump on the trip. There was a few things on the table, and I mentioned that none of it would actually benefit the economy, but there were things that could have actually happened. Like the thing that I was watching was for China to loosen their REM restrictions, the rare earth minerals, in exchange for the US to lift tariffs. And at least I thought there would be the tech deals. That's why they sent all the CEOs over, right? But we got none of that. There were no tech deals closed. The agriculture deal was effectively just a re-up. And then the REM restrictions and the tariff stuff, that was just extended. So they just kept on going to the same status quo. So really, on paper, when you look at this thing, nothing happened. Okay. And now you can be kind of cynical about that. But for me, I look at that and I got red flags going up. Red flags going up. Because the whole squad pulled up to China. Okay. Trump has been glazing them left and right. And then obviously she rolled out the red carpet too. And if all of that went down and nothing went through officially, something shady went through. Something shady happened under the table. Trump brought his son and the full squad of elites and tech CEOs. Something shady likely went down here because I know we did not just get this entire show for nothing. And you could say this is something Trump would do, like, oh, nothing ever happens with him. But no, like he would have at least had something bad to tweet, right? The last time we saw something like this kind of go down, image wise, was the beautiful scene of Trump pushing in the chair for a certain small country's leader. And we all know what happened there. This is the whole reason why we're in this Iran situation. So I got to say something bad happened. And we're probably not going to find out until it's too late.
Listen, in a way, I'm happy this country burning down. This bitch crumbling apart. Because now the deaf and the blind can see that these folks don't give a fuck about you. You run down there and you elect these motherfuckers and they tell you a bunch of lies, and then as soon as they get in, they turn their back on you. Using your ass for your motherfucking vote and stealing your goddamn money at the same time. Now when your kids get sick and you get sick, you can't go to the doctor because you ain't got no motherfucking insurance or nothing. When you go to the grocery store, you can't afford to get what you want. You only can get what you can, and that's little. You can't put no food on the fucking table. And you got a hole in your motherfucking roof. You ain't got the extra money to fix that shit. You can't pay your lawn guy. People losing their homes every fucking day because they can't afford the bills. Riding around with no fucking insurance. But you know what they give a fuck about? Your president told you. They care about fucking Iran. They care about Israel. They care about Ukraine. You got billionaires flying, doing motherfucking office work. What the fuck Elon Musk and the rest of these billionaires doing in fucking China? With the state of the world right now. Make that shit make sense. I'm going to tell you something, man. A lot of y'all motherfuckers think y'all living on a high horse right now. Really, you ain't no better than no fucking body else. You might got a little change in the bank. That ain't shit. If you ain't part of that big boy club, you gonna fucking find out, man. You will have more worse days than better days. I can promise you this, folks. I can promise you this. So every penny and every anything you can stack, you better hold on to it. You better clutch them wallets. You better clutch them purses and say, fuck them trips. Because you got some hard times coming your way. Because now they don't give a fuck about your vote no more. They don't need that. They switching the game up on you. This bitch showing you how the government work now. It's showing you how the government work. Millions and millions and millions and millions of people gonna lose their jobs to this AI shit and everything else, man. This country gonna look like Skid Row on steroids. Listen what I'm telling you, man. All them family vacations and trips and shit, all that shit out the motherfucking window. You better brace yourself, America. You better brace yourself. You got some hard times coming, boy. You got some hard times coming. You're going to be in the dark pretty soon. Y'all stay up out there. Get it out the mud.
Trump's trip to China was more than just a disaster, because it was. But more importantly, the trip tells you everything you need to know about Trump, the Trump administration, and how desperately they are working to keep Trump sitting in the Oval Office and J.D. Vance out. I'm going to break down how Trump literally gave away the farm, probably gave away Taiwan, and was forced to allow China to arm Iran. The trip was so bad that not even Sean Hannity could save him, though Lord knows he tried. Now, the first really telling sign of what the Trump White House is up to lies
Y'all, you can tell this was a very selfish, self centered, all about me, all about my rich buddy trip. He took his sons and CEOs. That don't sound like that was for the company, for the country. That sounds like it was for him and his rich buddies, that he thought they would be able to sit there and make all kinds of opportunities and billions of dollars with China. Trust me, just listening to who was there, you mean to tell me you didn't have your cabinet with you? You had CEOs. So you and your rich buddies were just trying to seize on opportunities and not look out for the country? That's all that sounds like to me. That's why it imploded and didn't work, because he was up to no good.
The fact that JD Vance was left behind, but Sean Hannity was there. Hannity understands his job. It's to save Trump, and he's understood this from the beginning. But nowhere was this more evidence than on the campaign trail when Hannity tried in vain to save Trump from himself. And here's the difference between then and now, a time span of less than 2 years. When they're harmless bantering that Hannity is trying to save Trump from his own words. Hannity knows that this dictator for a day meme is Trump shooting himself in the foot. But try as he might, Hannity is helpless. Trump seizes control from him. Well, there's no such seizing these days. In less than 2 years, Trump is a shell of who he was. And let's face it, 2 years ago, he was in bad shape. And the 2-year comparison is also a good measure of how badly Trump stumbled in China. Remember tough talking Trump on the campaign trail? Somebody brought up the issue of Chinese investors buying up American farmland. Here's what Trump had to say.
Well, we're going to protect it by saying you can't come. You can't do it. We don't want you buying our land. We don't want you taking the land and basically taking it off the market.
Now compare that to the Trump who has been absolutely humbled by China's Xi Jinping.
It's not that I love it. You want to see farm prices drop? You want to see farmers lose a lot of money? Just take that out of the market. But they've had a lot of land for a long time. Obama did nothing about it.
You really get the sense that there were no negotiations here. It was Xi telling Trump the way things are going to be. And nowhere was that more apparent than what Trump had to say about China arming Iran.
China's support of Iran. How big a discussion was that today?
We discussed it. I mean, when you say support, they're not fighting a war with us or anything.
No.
He said he's not going to give military equipment. That's a big statement. He said that today. That's a big statement. He said that strongly. But at the same time, he said, they buy a lot of their oil there, and they'd like to keep doing that. He'd like to see Hormuz Strait opened. I said, well, we didn't stop it. They did it, then we stopped them. Sort of interesting. He joked. He said, it's sort of, if they stopped it, then you stopped them. But they'd like to see it opened. But they actually closed.
Trump's about to get humiliated in China, and the White House knows it. And I would argue that China is now the leading global superpower, not the United States. Why am I saying this? Well, it's bad when the Trump administration themselves start scaling back expectations before something even begins. They know they don't have any cards to play. There's supposed to be this grand summit between the United States and China with Trump and President Xi meeting to discuss all of these important topics and strike these amazing deals. But the Trump administration knows that's not going to happen. China now holds all the cards, not the United States. And if you've been following geopolitical news for the past, 2.5, 3 decades, this should not come as a surprise to you at all. Over the past 3 decades, China has been building itself up to withstand this exact situation, another war in the Middle East, an energy crunch, and an economic crisis. They have the capability to hold out for as long as possible. The United States, on the other hand, not so much. The administration already knows they aren't going to be striking any new deals as it relates to trade or the situation in Iran or the Strait of Hormuz. They know this ahead of time. So we are just going to have to wait and see tonight when the summit begins, because that's when it will start U.S. time, and see what comes of it, and see if lowering the expectations was the right move by the admin.
Donald Trump is trying to cope really hard right now and make excuses over the fact that China is owning us. During his summit that's ongoing with Xi Jinping, the leader of China said that the US is a declining nation. And Trump is now trying to gaslight people into saying, oh, he didn't mean me. He meant under Joe Biden. He went on a lengthy rant on Turd Social, saying that Xi very elegantly referred to the United States as being perhaps a declining nation. He was referring to the tremendous damage that was suffered under sleepy Joe Biden. He said he was not referring to the spectacular 16 months of this Trump administration that includes an all-time stock market and 401ks and military victories. Let's point out just how blatantly sad and pathetic this is. First of all, let's just point out that if you met with a leader of another country and they were talking about your predecessor, they would have said something like, the US was a declining nation until you arrived, or something. They would not say the US is a declining nation. And yes, Xi Jinping was indeed talking about right now under Donald Trump, because he was pointing out exactly what I've been saying for months. Donald Trump has spent this first year and a half of his new term attacking his allies, threatening to take over sovereign nations, going over to other countries and kidnapping their leaders, stealing all of their oil. Now he started an unprovoked attack and a war on Iran, which even his own intelligence people said was completely unnecessary. And now it is skyrocketing our gas prices and making our already failing economy fail faster. All of our other prices are going up faster. But also because Donald Trump is so volatile, other countries are now pulling out of trade deals with us and making new trade deals with China. And while we are having problems here in this country now with AI data centers going up and people being incredibly pissed about that, over in China, they're finding new and improved ways to cool their data centers so they don't produce as much heat, they don't affect the environment as much, and they are utilizing China's clean green energy to do this. The green energy that the United States apparently thinks is a horrible thing. What Xi Jinping was saying is exactly what I said a few weeks ago. Don't be surprised if when this Iran war is over and Trump is out of power, that China becomes the world's top superpower. He wasn't talking about Joe Biden. Under Joe Biden, we had a great economy and we were the top country in the G7. We recovered the fastest after COVID, but now Donald Trump came in and in less than a year and a half, he has completely flushed all of our economic progress down the toilet. He has burned the bridges with all of our allies, and China is there picking up the pieces. Donnie is trying really hard to cope with the fact that Xi Jinping just rubbed in his face that the only country he's making great is China.
Trump came to China talking like a man who still believed the world was waiting for him to dictate terms. But the images out of Beijing told a very different story. This was not the triumphant return of an American president bending China to his will. This was a strained, heavily choreographed visit by a weakened leader walking into the Great Hall of the People at a moment when Washington's pressure campaign across the world is running into hard limits.
US President Donald Trump arrived in Beijing on Wednesday evening for a state visit to China, greeted by Vice President Han Zhen during a welcome ceremony.
Now, Donald Trump has arrived in China on a two-day visit, the first official trip by a U.S. president for nearly a decade.
President Trump is in China. He touched down in Beijing earlier today ahead of that high-stakes summit with Chinese leader Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping received him with ceremony, yes, but not with surrender. The Chinese side made the setting grand, disciplined, and unmistakably controlled. Trump landed in Beijing and was greeted at the airport by Vice President Han Zheng rather than Xi himself, before the formal welcome later at the Great Hall, where the honor guard, national anthems, and 21-gun salute created the appearance of respect, while Beijing kept the political rhythm firmly in its own hands. And that is what made the entire summit so revealing. Trump has spent years selling himself to his base as the one man who could bully China, humiliate Beijing, bring back American dominance, and make Xi Jinping bend. But when the cameras rolled, the language changed. Suddenly, Trump was praising Xi as a great leader, calling China a great country, speaking of tremendous respect, encouraging American business leaders to deepen cooperation, and presenting the meeting not as a confrontation, but as the biggest summit the world was watching. The contrast was almost painful. At home, MAGA politics feeds on loud threats, tariff theatrics, and fantasies of American supremacy. But in Beijing, with the war on Iran draining U.S. credibility, with the Strait of Hormuz crisis exposing Washington's limits, and with China positioned as a power that can still talk to Tehran while Washington struggles to force outcomes, Trump sounded less like a commander of the world order and more like a man trying to salvage face in front of a leader who knew exactly how weak his hand had become. Before we go deeper into what really happened in Beijing, take a second to like this video, share it, and drop a comment below, even if it is just a dot. That small action helps push this report through the algorithm and make sure independent voices are not buried under the same polished MAGA narratives that always protect power when power fails. And subscribe to support honest journalism, because moments like this need to be documented clearly, without fear, without worshiping Washington, and without pretending that Trump walked into China from a position of strength when the whole world could see the opposite. The central drama of this visit was not just the handshake or the banquet or the carefully staged state ceremony. It was the imbalance beneath the theater. Xi Jinping entered the meeting with the posture of a leader whose country has weathered years of American pressure and still expanded its diplomatic room. Trump entered with noise baggage and a foreign policy crisis that has made every conversation more expensive for Washington. China did not need to shout. It did not need to insult him. It simply allowed the optics to speak. Formal hospitality on the surface, firm red lines underneath. The Iran factor made that contradiction even sharper. Washington's war has not produced the clean victory its architects imagined. Instead, it has exposed the vulnerability of American planning when a regional power refuses to collapse under bombardment and pressure. The Strait of Hormuz crisis has reminded everyone that geography still matters, that military power has limits, and that Iran's military and political networks can impose costs in ways Washington cannot easily erase.
Mess with them. In a world full of crazies, you might just have to no, of course. First of all, our military capabilities has just been proven with Iran. We've interjected arguably in too many wars. And if there's one person who really is not in a place to be making demands, it's President Xi. So that's why I just believe it's all words. He's not going to do anything. I agree with the U.S.'s stance on the ambiguity when it comes to Taiwan. I also feel that
Trump's China summit was a masterclass in weakness, incompetence, and humiliation. So you may be wondering, what exactly did America get out of this trip with China? And it doesn't sound like a whole lot. Trump was able to secure a Boeing order that was reportedly cut in half to its original size. Industry sources thought it would be a 500 plane deal. Now it sounds like China only agreed to 200 planes. And we got some vague promises on soybeans. Meanwhile, China walked away with trade concessions, eased pressure on Iran, access to more AI chips, support for buying U.S. farmland, 500,000 student visas, and a U.S. president who won't clearly commit to defending Taiwan. After all of that, what was Trump's takeaway from his meeting with Xi Jinping? It was the ballroom. No, seriously, this is what he was posting about on his Truth Social. Not national security, not trade. The ballroom was his priority. And
yeah, that is true. You know what he was mumbling about? Donald Trump was mumbling about China had a ballroom. So he went on and on about how China has a ballroom and, talking about that old garbage ballroom that he's building. And who cares about that when the gas prices are going through the roof? Nobody cares about that. But that's what he was talking about.
getting his $1 billion to build it. And then probably came one of the most embarrassing moments, if not the most embarrassing moment of the trip, when she reportedly told Trump that America is a declining nation. Any American president with a backbone would have pushed back on this notion, but no, that's not what Trump did. Instead, he posted on his Truth Social after the fact and said that he basically agreed with Xi, but blamed Biden for us being a declining nation, but then credited himself for us now being the hottest nation in the world. Call me crazy, but I don't think that an American president should go overseas and validate a communist dictator trashing our country. And I'll end with this. I noticed in a photo from this meeting of the two largest economies in the world that there was not a single woman at the table from either delegation.
So, y'all, that was the trip. So that was the trip. So that's what tax dollars paid for, a bunch of nothing. A bunch of nothing. And even if something would have come out of it, it would have been exclusively for CEOs and his rich buddies. It wouldn't have been nothing for us. It wouldn't have been no relief from all the inflation. And Donald Trump actually doubled down and said he did not care about the finances of the American people. He doubled down on that, you know? So he doesn't care. He doesn't care. So the trip actually was a waste of time. They should have just did the trip on Zoom because he didn't get nothing good out of the whole deal. But according to, Donald Trump, he knows how to make deals. Yeah, well, that remains to be seen. We don't see these incredible deals that he's walking away with. Mhm. So much for that. I think it's hilarious because I think this is the first time in my lifetime I seen a president go all the way over to China and walked away with no deal. Even Biden walked away with deals. Obama walked away with deals. George W. Bush walked away with deals, but Donald Trump walked away with nothing. Nothing. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support, and we'll do this all over again tomorrow. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat and night. Shabbat Shalom, family.